What's up, Chumbags? Welcome to the HQ. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined by Nick Sivak for another episode of the Respawn Station podcast. And today we're going to be talking about how EA is betting big with Battlefield. But before that, we have, of course, a lot of things to talk about, including what we've been playing. But, at the top, right off the bat, we want to take a second, all right? And I want to shout out some kind of things going on in the games media space. Obviously, a few episodes ago, we talked about ourselves. I think actually 2 episodes in the last 3, we've talked a lot about kind of like the behind the scenes and how we started. So I thought it would be nice to kind of talk about what else is going on kind of in this industry. So last year, some people might remember that Game Informer died. All right. It was that freaking Eric Andre, meme of like GameStop killing Game Informer. Like, who killed Game Informer? And then somehow, Game Informer has returned. And so, not only have they returned, on the website, you can go and read their articles now, but also they got that physical thing going. So I did get mine in. I don't know how long they normally are. This is like a 96, almost 100 pages of gaming goodness, including kind of the backlog that they have. The time that they were offline, which, by the way, we didn't even really like that's crazy. They came back and they weren't just like, oh yeah, we're back. Everything we've missed is now actually, there's no blip in the timeline. It's crazy. Right. Anyway, also, This Week in Video Games. It's another kind of website where you can go to follow up on news. It's going to be a lot more, I'd say, timely than Respawn Station. We certainly do cover news, and we'll talk about that later this episode. But, This Week in Video Games started up by Skill Up, or Ralph from the Friends Per Second podcast. It's always interesting to see new people enter this field, especially on this large of a scale, because usually it's like any big media sites are always going down. Like, that's what you normally see news about. So I thought it'd be nice to spread that a little bit of cheer. Now, Nick, this is something that I've had in my notes that I wanted to share. All right, moving on from the good news. This is something I wanted to get on record. And I just completely forgot. It was during the Summer Game Fest excitement. Obviously, one of the big announcements during Summer Game Fest this year was Resident Evil 9 Requiem. And so, obviously, the Q is the 9 for this time around. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to just throw this out there, all right? I understand the Resident Evil 9 is not out yet. But my prediction is Resident Evil 10 Revelations, with the I, with the one, I and O as the 10. That's my guess. We'll see. Or it could probably be Roman numeral 2. So I gotta brainstorm about that.
Revelations game, because they've already used Revelations for a game or two. So
you're goddamn right. Then it's got to be with something with X, huh?
Revolution. All right, I'll come back to you. Maybe. I don't know if that necessarily works. Okay. But
yeah, it works. It works. Revolution could, but now, like literally, as I've started explaining it, talked myself into it's got to be X. So now I got to think of something that has X in it, because that's got to be the way. Anyway, I'll come back to come back next episode. That's your hook, all right? You got to come back next episode, and I'll guarantee you the title of Resident Evil 10. All right?
Extermination.
Oh, okay, yeah. Extermination's a good one, especially fitting with the. Nick, stop giving away the hook for the next. I set it up for the next episode.
Actually, Sri, I work at Capcom. I'm just leaking everything now.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's Mr. Capcom. So we will get to some of the news stuff in just a little bit. But first, as always, we got to talk about what we've been playing and ask ourselves a very important question. Nick, what are you playing?
Oh, my favorite part of the week, talking about what I've been playing. So, I've been on the Tony Hawk grind.
Whoa.
Still playing 3 and 4. I've now completed the game 6 times, with 6 different characters.
Whoa, shit.
I don't know how long I'm going to keep playing it. I doubt I'm going to play all of them, because there's like 35 characters. So I doubt I'm going to do all of it, but I'm still having fun with it. Still just do a run, a night essentially, and have fun with it like that. But yeah, my thoughts from last week kind of hold true. Like, I like it a lot. I think it's a fun game to play. I think it's definitely flawed though, so not really anything new, and I don't think that thought process is going to change much. Really looking forward to see if the game gets any sort of substantial updates or not, because 1+2 didn't really have much in the way of updates. And I've also not played any online, so maybe I'll dip my toes into some online here, but I always get a little bit afraid that there's the 20-year veterans in there that are just going to score 20 million
Stomp
points. Yeah. I played a bit more RoboCop Rogue City. I've gone back to that. I took a little bit of a hiatus there with some with the Alters and Tony Hawk coming out, but I'm back to RoboCop. Still having fun with that one. I have a feeling by the end of it, like I'm already starting to feel like, okay, like I think, this can wrap up, and I'm only like 40% of the way through according to PlayStation. So, yeah, I think it might maybe overstay its welcome by the end of it, but it's still a fun shooter right now. I actually got an upgrade for RoboCop's pistol that the pistol in the game is unlimited ammo, and I have an upgrade now that allows me to never reload and shoot fully automatic. So I can literally just pull out his pistol and hold the trigger, and like it'll never stop firing, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, still a relatively fun time. The main thing, or the main new thing, I guess I'll say, is I've been playing a demo for a game called Dead as Disco. And you'll have to correct me. Did we talk about this on the podcast, like, within the last couple months, if you recall? If not, then I must
believe we did.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought we did, but I wasn't quite certain. This game has a free demo on Steam, and the main reason why I downloaded it was because I was actually talking to some people, and we were talking about Hi-Fi Rush, and they showed me footage of this game, and I was like, oh, that looks familiar, and I was like, I think it was from the podcast. So essentially I went and downloaded this demo, going in completely blind, and it's a very short demo. It's like the actual like story level or whatever that you get to play takes like 10 minutes, I think. Like it's pretty short, but my pitch essentially for this is Batman Arkham style combat mixed with Hi-Fi Rush. So it's a lot of like beat 'em up and counters and that sort of stuff mixed with everything is synced up to the beat of the music like Hi-Fi Rush. And it's very saturated, very colorful, very bright. And it took me like 10 seconds playing this, and I was like, oh, they're cooking. Like I like immediately, because they have like a cover of the song Maniac, like she's a maniac for the opening level, and it takes like until the first lyrics start coming in, and you just get like that douche, 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 like it just all comes together. I don't know what it is about rhythm action games, but just like something about it really scratches something in my brain where I'm like, this is so much fun. And the animations are really interesting with it because it's a brawler, obviously, but your character, it's like they're kind of like dancing mixed with the punches. Like there's this one animation that I find very funny where it's just like a bunch of quick little punches, and it's like obviously like in a real fight I don't think that would have much like it wouldn't have much impact, but like it to the music and everything and how the camera kind of zooms in whenever you do like a canned animation of a combo or whatever, it's just a lot of fun. And what's interesting about this one is they have the like little story mission that you can play, and then there's also a endless mode that you can play, and you can actually import your own music into the game, and it'll allow you to select your own songs and play that way. So however the game works, I think it checks like the BPM of the song, and then it has like a set pacing essentially that it can apply to them. I've not really messed around with any of the custom music. I just kind of played the extra tracks that they have in there, but Yeah, I put like an hour and a half into it, and this is like again a demo that you can finish in like 10 minutes. So I've gone
Hell
back
yeah.
for a couple times to play it, but this has definitely shot up on my my wish list and everything because I love the style. The music sounds like it's going to be really great. The combat already feels pretty good. I don't think it feels quite like on the level of Hi-Fi Rush. It's definitely a bit toned back, and the kind of Arkham feel, the way that I say that is because like in those Arkham games, you really get into that rhythm of like punch punch counter, punch punch grab, punch punch counter, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And that already kind of applies even in this small little chunk of the
Mhm.
game. So um
When does this one due out?
I don't think it has a date on it. I think they're still like pretty deep into development. They showed like
Mhm.
concepts at the end of the demo, like it goes through like a little trailer and it has like concepts
Oh,
for other bosses and things like that. But yeah, I don't think it has a date on it right now. So not expecting it anytime soon. But from what I played, it was a lot of fun and I'm really looking forward to more.
yeah. No, Hi-Fi Rush is a game that definitely wasn't expecting for me to enjoy it as much because I'm like I've never really gotten into rhythm games, but man, yeah, there's something about like inherently satisfying. I think it's about like how everything kind of comes together because it's not just like you're not just registering with the visuals, but then like there's an auditory kind of satisfaction that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say it's hypnotic in a way because you're just kind of like, yes,
No, for
I must
sure.
obey the beat. Yes. So now, oof, ladies and gentlemen, I can finally talk about the last 2 weeks of gaming that I've been doing because I've put 20 hours into Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, and boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. Because you know what? Look, if you're a fan of the show, you might be wondering, hey, why is Sui the one playing this game, huh? When we got, the resident Souls-like expert playing a resource management game for the last 2 weeks. Uh, it's just the way that it's just the way things shaped out, and I was very curious about this one, kind of after the last few trailers that I'd seen, and so I decided to to dive in head first, not really knowing what to expect, other than this is a Souls-like that's set in ancient China, and there were several times, I'll say it right at the top, there were several times as I was playing this game completely under like embargo. I couldn't talk about it with anyone. I was just saying like, do I like this game this much? Like, am I enjoying this much? And then like I'd have to like check in occasionally, and it definitely, I will admit, gave me some like of the weird, we've talked about it before, but like that weird imposter syndrome where I'm like, damn, I wonder what Nick would say about this game if he was playing it. And like officially today, the reviews are out and like the embargo is lifted, so we can kind of talk about it. But for last like a few days, I've really been thinking like, I've been enjoying this game, but like, am I tripping? Am I crazy? But no, the last Souls like I played was Lies of P, one that similar to Hi-Fi Rush, what I was talking about, totally took me by surprise. I ended up really liking that one, and so it seems that I've somehow hit another lucky strike. I hit a good vein, and so Wu Chang, to kind of set the stage, right? It's a pretty standard Souls-like in almost all the aspects of setup. Of you're playing this character. Her name is Wu Chang. She wakes up with this disease, and she's inflicted with this thing called the feathering, which makes it so like one of her shoulders and her arm eventually will like starts getting like the features of feathers and stuff, like bird-like features. And the feathering is like this thing that's kind of terrorizing this whole area. And so you wake up, you have no memories. This local like Taoist monk essentially kind of saved your life, and you set out into the world without knowing much else other than you're finding your sister. Like you're in the search for your sister, and this land is just terrible. There's like freaking cannibals and stuff. And immediately, first of all, as you get into it, this is a budget title. It's not a full 60, 70, $80 game. but it certainly looks above, like it's punching above its weight in terms of just general looks. It's not like a beautiful game. There's definitely this weird effect that it has in several places where like um, the like textures will kind of fade out a little bit for like if you're in certain areas or you're looking in certain ways. It sounds weird when I say it like that, but like the camera will like they'll lose some of the details and textures and stuff. But that's like rare. Like it doesn't really happen.
Is it like a
And
visual
so
effect, or is it like texture pop in and pop out?
no, it's a visual effect. I think they do it on purpose.
Okay.
Like I think they're like it's like some sort of like a rendering thing that they do. And and kind of speaking of that, like I'm playing this on the prioritized frame rate. There's actually three modes in this one. There's prioritized frame rate, there's prioritized resolution, or you can do balanced. Which balanced is fine, but I find that it hits a little too hard in the performance for me. So playing with FPS in mind, it is a really smooth game, and overall, it's just like it's just smooth to go through. The gameplay experience, I experienced very few kind of hitches or kind of like I didn't get stuck in any environments. I've done some stupid things, right? And I didn't like find myself like stuck in between rocks or like unable to get out of wherever I was, even where like situations where I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be stuck here, and then like I just kind of roll out and it's like, oh no, never mind, I'm good. I made it out. So with all that said, that's just the general setup, right? So there's a lot that there's a lot to get into, right? So first of all, let's talk about combat. Obviously, the core of every Souls-like. This has the standard light attack, heavy attack, as you expect. There's also a block that you can do as well that kind of uses some stamina, and then you take less of a hit health wise. You can also dodge, and a perfect dodge can kind of help in other ways as well. But the big thing here to kind of augment the combat is the Skyborn Might. Now, Skyborn Might is essentially this. You can get it in multiple ways. For example, if you dodge, if you do a perfect dodge, it'll give you a little shimmer sound effect, and it'll also like give you a little visual cue as well, and it'll kind of like dock one of these Skyborn Mites on your HUD in the bottom left, and based on what kind of build you're going for, right? So based on weapon you have or what how you're building out your skill tree or what spells you can have, because there's also spells, you use like 1 to 2 to 3 of these Skyborn Mites to do a special move. So or like a special attack. So like for example, I mean break it down because again it can sound complicated to be explained, and at first I think it might be a little bit like what is going on, like there's a lot to handle, but I think as you keep playing it sort of explains itself out. But so if you have a spell, certain spells are one Skyborn Mites. I'll say SMs for short because I don't want to say that over and over again. So it'll be like one SM, and it'll just like throw a like 2 glowing darts at the enemy that do a little bit of damage. You can have like ones that are 2, which is like a bigger kind of like fire blast, or you can have ones that are like 6 that have like lasers that are like a magic circle comes up and laser fires out or whatever. So you can kind of choose the risk and reward you want, and it's you can hotkey 4 of them in. So at any point during the battle, without having to go to the menu, you can just switch spells and stuff. And as someone who hates spells and like magic builds, it really like I actually was using the spells kind of in meaningful ways, and I was looking at them to figure out which one would best suit the current boss and like how I want to approach the character. Again, weapons also have this, so you can use it for like a special attack with your weapon. Again, using it exhausts SMs, but you can bank a few of them, and then based on how much you do your skill tree, you can get more. Like you can bank more of them. There's also items you can use to like kind of up your like how many Skyborn Mites you can have and stuff. So those are the key. That's the core of it, right? The Skyborn Mite is huge to the gameplay and how you play because it really changes what weapons you're using and how you want to stack certain builds. Like if you want just like you can be afflicted with poison or corruption or blight or frostbite or burn, like all these effects, your opponents can also do that. So if you want to run like a burn build and you can have a fire sword that has like an ultimate that, or, a move that does like fire damage, you can also put a fire spell. And then as you're doing this, you're kind of like, as the boss fights or enemies or the fights are going on, you can burn the enemies and kind of do a little bit additional damage, which certainly helps out, depending on what boss you're taking on. So that's a big one. And there's also, again, another function of Skyborn Might is at any point, you can have two weapons equipped, or one weapon equipped, but two kind of on your hotbar. So at any like with the one button, you can switch between them. But then using one Skyborn Might, you can also press L3 and it does a what's called a swift draw. And so it's like this cooler flourish that gets out the second weapon and also like does some attack or attack damage in the process. So stuff like that is nice, and kind of changes the way you play the game and the way you approach the game in meaningful ways. Now, as is standard in any Souls-like, there's also shrines that you can go to pray. But at these shrines, there's multiple different things you can do that's not just resting, as is kind of standard. So you can, of course, rest, which gives you your flasks back, and also like heals your health and respawns enemies. Again, as is standard. But there's also I can go across the way, right? So you enter the dream, and entering the dream gets you all those heals. It resets the world. You can also do benedictions, which are essentially each weapon can have three benedictions that are like stones and attachments that you can pick up. You'll kind of get them as you play the game and defeat certain enemies, and equipping them will give you additional like boosts to like weapon damage or plunge damage or plunge attack damage or
Kind of like relics in a lot of other games.
Yes.
Things to modify your
Yeah,
weapon.
exactly. And then also you have like your like temperament, which is something you unlock an hour or so, maybe. I'm not quite sure. It's been a long 20 hours, so I don't know what the timing of it is, but pretty early on, relatively speaking, you get the temperance, which is lets you power up your arm. So currently I can do 3 temperances because of how I've done my skill tree, and that essentially means that I can light my blade on fire 3 times, and it does obviously additional burn damage. Again, going towards that build. You also have what's called the oh man, it's I didn't write the whole thing in my repository. It's some stupid name for like how to like the skill tree and how to level up. Because you use red mercury as the kind of souls to gather and level up, and if you die someplace, they get dropped wherever wherever you died. Really annoying. I'll just say it right here. If you die in a boss fight, it spawns in the room with the boss, not just outside conveniently, which is a pain. But it's all right. It's part of the struggle. But back to this. So as you're upgrading, it is probably one of the biggest kind of, I say negative, but some people might find it as a positive, is I find the skill tree to be like just extremely daunting. It's one of those things where it starts off and like, okay, I sort of get it. It's like starts off in a core center, and then, you can build it out based on what weapon you want to, because there's long swords, axes, like dual swords, or just short swords, like all these weapons or spears, and you can specifically like level up in the direction of those weapons and stuff. So I primarily go for long swords and axes, and so that's where I'm putting most of my points in. But as you keep going, you're like, oh, I'm hitting the edge of this skill tree over here, and then all of a sudden it expands further, and you're like, oh shit, it's just it's just too advanced, and like give me something where it tells me like you want vitality, endurance, or freaking I don't know what the other one is, damage or whatever, strength. Like just
are the skills like fundamentally changing anything, or is it like plus 0.5% X?
There's a blend. So there's certain ones that are just for every level up that you get one a point that you can put into these things, and it'll be like strength +1. And then every few ones, it's like strength +5. So it's like, ooh, I feel really good about that one. But then also, as you're playing the game, and apart from the bosses, there's certain like stronger enemies, and defeating them often will get you some sort of a reward, or just kind of exploring the maps in general. And some of those rewards can be used in the skill tree. Like you have to have those things in order to unlock like certain parts of the skill tree, and
Okay.
that'll get you like more flasks that you can use or more temperances. Like that's how I can use 3 temperances instead of just one, stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot you can do at you can also access your items and like your warehouse of like how you're storing them, and there's all that stuff in the shrines as well. And overall, and I was also like this. Gosh, I mean, I gotta just tell you the basics of this game is going to take me forever. So there's also what's called an inner demon. So as your feathering is growing, you could also get madness as part of it, and you can visibly see it grow. And I also like the more like the like red mercury you have, I guess it also kind of impacts that as well. Um, if I'm wrong about any of that, someone's gonna fry me, but it's all right. The idea though is that when you're like when you die with this certain state, when you go back after your death to where your red mercury is, a version of you will spawn in called an inner demon.
Mm.
And this inner demon will have like she can use a flask so she can heal herself. She has like the weapons in your equipment, and you have to beat her in order to get your red mercury back.
That's very
And this is
Hollow
one of the
Knight. Hollow Knight does a similar thing where
so
your
here's the thing,
stuff
right?
is there. Yeah.
One of the early points of this game where I was like, hold on, was essentially this. I was in this place where I was like, as I'm exploring the map, it's like this underground area where I was like, I feel like it's like almost Resident Evil in a way, where it's like cramped hallways, and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I need to get out of this. Like I'm hunting for the next shrine, and I'm going down this hallway, and essentially there's like a little platform, and the way to progress like through this area is to drop down the platform into this room, and then you know um go out the room and continue. So I drop down, and this dude that's there, just I don't know if like I was just not prepared for his attack set or whatever, but he fucking swipes the floor with me. I mean, I'm done. All right, I was like, all right, reset, spawn in, running back, and lo and behold, my inner demon is spawned. Right, like before, like it does conveniently do it so that it's like right off the edge or whatever. But my inner demon spawn. I was like, well, hold on. The inner demon's aggroed on me, but what if I aggro the dude? And so I aggroed him, and then they start fighting. And so I'm like just keeping my distance and letting them fight. And once one of them is weak, I like, I go in and finish it. And so it becomes like this intellectual thing of like, this inner demon's going to spawn in here, but where can I lead her where I'm like, like she was going to take out some other enemy, and, I can get two birds with one stone type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of weird freedom that the game gives you is very charming in a way that like it's like, yeah, it's brutal at times, but like it's letting you have your fun a little bit, and almost like it's made to. I don't know if it'd be too much to say. It makes you feel like you're smarter because like you're like, I tricked the game, but like no, that's part of like the design, like that's intended to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, with that said, let's go through some of the other kind of quick points that I had. So first of all, kind of narratively speaking, this is I find it a little underwhelming, and I might be, people might say that's just a byproduct of the fact that it's a Souls-like, and that the story isn't actually like this really tangible thing right now. It's very kind of cryptic and dreamy. What the game does do decent job at is like building out this atmosphere of this ancient China. And, one of the things that they kind of sent us in the press release prior to the game was that some of the locations in the game you can actually like, because they're based on real places, you can go to in real life. Obviously like a modernized version, but like you can go to those places, which adds an interesting kind of texture to that whole aspect. But more interestingly, like just the general atmosphere of like this uh I think it's like late Ming Dynasty. I have no touch with ancient Chinese history, so I can't really speak to what it was in real life or like kind of historically. But it's just like people are desperate. There's a general darkness to this world that I think that while I find that um, the writing may not always like hold up, especially when I'm playing with like English dub on. Uh, it doesn't quite feel that desperate. But so what I did as a result was I changed my game language to Chinese, and I've been listening to it, or I've been reading subtitles instead. And that
Mm.
adds like, because like then I don't really get the delivery of the lines. I'm just like getting the idea of what's happening, and I actually find that it's a lot darker that way. And there's like generally as you're playing, you'll come across a few NPCs. They don't say much, but like you can do small quests for them. You can go grab stuff and return it. But it's like there's some fucked up backstories just like casually happening. Like they're just like I don't know, man. I can't even like get like people are killing themselves throughout the quest line. Like you give
Hmm.
this woman something and she's like, "Oh my God, this breaks my heart." And then the next time you see her, she's fucking dead. Like she's just in her spot dead. I'm like, "Oh God!" Like I completed a quest and she killed herself. Like maybe I shouldn't have done my quest. So it's just it's a lot, but um, I do appreciate the dark tone of it overall. But yeah, it's not like narratively. I'm not invested in like finding this sister character and stuff. There's also like as you kind of explore the game, so you can emote in the game as well at any point by pressing the trackpad on the PS5. And
So
there's
you can do
certain
the
like apart
Carlton,
from just
is what you're saying?
well, apart from just fucking, emoting, I guess, you can do like some Tai Chi stuff. But like there's certain areas in the map as you explore where, you can interact with them to like get lore and, a little bit of dialogue here and there, some diary entries. But some of them will be like, this is a place where people used to go to pray or whatever. And if you do the prayer emote, it gives you something. Like it gives you like either a flashback of like your past or like an item that you can pick up and use somewhere. So stuff like that is pretty cool. And then also look, I'm actually honestly surprised I went this far without talking about the probably elephant in the room, which is Wu Chang's pretty hot, and they like it's. There's certainly like those like, oh yeah, that's a game costume for sure, made for combat, absolutely. That kind of thing. Uh, I don't think that should distract people from the fact that it is a challenging ass game and it is a like it tests your patience sometimes, but they clearly also know that like there's time went into the physics of this main character, and so to help with that, they've also like transmog is in the game from like day one or I guess day zero, depending on how you look at it. So you can pick whatever kind of item in your like kind of there's headpiece, chest piece, legs, and hands, and all of them you can transmog to look like any other piece of equipment that you have. So, for those of you who really care about how you look, there you go. You can do that. You don't have to sacrifice form over function or vice versa. Though it is kind of like oddly cool. Like I found this absolutely terrible, at least in my opinion, head skin, which just looks like like a giant like monster head, and it's just kind of cool. Like I just got this like hot babe body, and then just a fucking monster head on top. It adds to the atmosphere. Um. Oh, you know what? This is a little shout out. I've look. I'll admit I've been bad at it, but we obviously have Start Screen Gallery over on Instagram. I will post more, I swear. But speaking of start screens, this game, first of all, has this weird detail I noticed early on where like the costume your character has when you sign out is what your character will be wearing on the main menu screen when you load it up, which I was like, oh, that's a nice touch. That's a cool touch.
Fun, yeah.
But then also it changes based on location. So like every location you go to in the game has a different start screen when you start up, which was kind of a nice touch. Like the last one I went to has this like really cool like wide. I believe I'm currently in Cloudspire, but it's like this wide frame, the moon's in the background. It's just yeah, it's a cool setting. Um, and I think overall though, and I have to talk about like as lastly, the the actual just souls like of it all because it has I've talked about everything else, but the maps mostly linear, but they're really satisfying in a way that like you'll play through a certain area and you're like, okay, I'm going this way, and then like, okay, it's been a while since I've seen a shrine recently, and then you can actually, you'll open a door and it's like, oh wait, this loops back into this area that I could like, I've been to before, and now the shrine's more accessible. As a little kind of, uh, you know, bonus, little quality of life improvement, there's a compass on the bottom right that shows you like what items you have and stuff. But as at certain times, the compass will light up and there'll be a red icon that kind of moves in a certain direction. And when there's a red icon, little red arrow, it means that it's pointing you towards the nearest shrine. So,
Hmm.
if that comes up, okay, you're near a shrine. It also shows a yellow one if there's an NPC that you can talk to. So, those are the small little things. If you do want some guidance on where to go, if you're lost in that way, there's no map or anything. I think that's kind of the real way. But honestly, it's pretty linear overall. You're not going to get lost too much. And look, call me an expert, but I've come to the point where like I'll look at a certain area and be like, oh yeah, that's a boss for sure. And so like I'll walk away and I'll make sure I'm like doing other things before I go enter the like I'll go spend my red mercury and then come back to make sure I'm interacting with the bosses. And I think the last point, the bosses, a pretty good variety. I mean, like for me as someone who's not super well versed in Souls like, I feel that uh the shape of the monsters are or the bosses, they're not all monsters. Well, like on the outside. But like the shape of them is similar to what you might have seen in other games. Like I think there's certain like there's this long scorpion looking thing or like a spider looking thing, but there's also humans that like attack super fucking fast. So there's the full gambit, and but the design of them is still kind of fun and satisfying to play. And like I'm literally right before this we started this recording this podcast, I was at a boss. I was trying to get this boss. I got him real freaking close, and he cornered me. But it's part of like the thing where death is part of the learning process, and I've become okay with that as I'm playing. And it's kind of been this interesting challenge of I'll like after a few attempts, I'm like, okay, let me put on a podcast and like I'll like lower the game volume and I'll just kind of like focus it and get in tune with like dodging it right and like getting the combos because like again the combos aren't just attack combos but it's like attack use a spell use a sky use your skyborn might for a special attack going back and forth, and it gives some nice kind of momentum to the gameplay. So whew, with all that said, that's my spiel. That's 2.5 weeks roughly of gameplay, kind of leading into it. I am not done the game, so my article will be coming out on respawnstation.com. It's not going to be as like definitive, because there's still some more progress that I have to make with the game. So it's interesting because like now that the embargo's out, the game's seemingly not as long as I was told it was,
Hmm.
which makes me skeptical. But then also, like, I mean, end of chapter one, I texted Nick, but that boss like took me like 2 hours, man. I mean, like, including like maybe a little bit of like, okay, I need to go grind a little bit and come back type of thing. But like, still, I was fucking 2 hours where I was just like, fuck, beating my head against the wall, and I'm like, I'm fucking giving up, and then I'll get like the boss like like 20% health. I'm like, maybe no, hold on. There's a chance. There's a chance. I got this. And then, going back at it,
That's that
part of the loop.
carrot on the end of the stick there. Um, I had one thing that I wanted to ask you, which you kind of touched around it, which is obviously the levels are, like you said, on the more like linear side, and there's bosses and everything. What is the boss to like exploration and like lesser enemies kind of ratio? Because I remember hearing about Black Myth Wukong when that was out, and apparently that I have not played it myself personally, but apparently that skewed more like boss heavy where it was like you do like a little bit of exploration, then boss, then boss, then boss.
Sure.
Is this more of like you're plopped in an area, you're kind of exploring for a while, fighting lesser enemies, and then there's like a boss that's like at the end of an area, or does it feel more like boss rush in that way?
It's a lot. So it's a lot more balanced. It's definitely not boss rush, and it's also not. It's up to you how you want to do it. And also, impressively, the map so far at least just opens up. It doesn't actually like load you to a different place unless you like teleport. So like I'm in the second or third big area, no, third or fourth big area of the game, and like there's like no cutscenes. Like you're just kind of like going through. Just you can go if you want to for some reason. You can walk all the way back to where the game started.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's a cool feature, but it's not brutal. Like it's not like bosses being shoved down your throat.
Okay.
But there's certainly ones too that were again I'm not an expert. I was lying earlier. Okay, you can just know when a boss is like you look at a certain area and be like, yeah, that's a boss area for sure. And so you can avoid it and literally just keep going around it, which I have done. Where I'll go through. I'm like, I'm not quite ready for that yet. I'll go in and when I do go in, I'm prepared for it a little bit better, and I'm expecting it, right? Like I'm not like, oh God, I'm caught off guard. The big bosses, the ones that you have to play, are like the real challenges, and they're not super frequent. Like I was between like the end of chapter 1 where I had that big boss that took me 2 hours to like I'd probably say the one I'm like the next boss. Like it took me like a good hour and a half of just like playing, exploring stuff, and definitely being like, yeah, that's not yet, buddy. I need to recover from the last one. So yeah, it's balanced to your liking. Obviously, you get a bonus if you do fight the optional bosses. So
Mm-hmm.
your own pierogi, as they say in the business.
I think it's funny that you're gonna play through like 40 different Souls likes before you play Dark Souls or Elden Ring.
But dude, I seemingly know how to pick them, man. I mean, like I saw someone saying like, yeah, like Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is the best Souls like since Lies of P, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I would know. I would know. But no, I'm looking forward to playing more. We'll see how this journey fares for me. Going forward. I don't know if I'll necessarily talk about it, even if I do keep playing it. I won't necessarily talk about it to this length ever. But I feel really solidly about it. It's out this week. By the time you're listening to this, it's out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. And if you have the Xbox Game Pass, it's you can just check it out for no additional price, for no extra price. So I do think it is worth it if you are looking for a nice, just challenging game. And yeah, there you go. That's been my spiel. I've not been playing anything else, much to my chagrin. I've not even played Death Stranding 2. I've just been playing Wu Chang, try to get as much as much done for this embargo as possible. And 20 hours in, I'm fairly confident in saying and giving it a solid recommendation. I do think it's a great game.
Nice.
But with that said, it's now time to talk about some news, and we certainly got some spicy stuff to talk about. Yeah, you know what? I think this week things are starting to normalize. Last like 3 weeks we've been like, well, there's nothing happening in the games industry other than like fucking terrible news from Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we got a handful of interesting news to throw at you guys. So Nick, do you want to start, my friend?
Yeah, let's talk about Outer Worlds 2 at the start, because this just happened today as we're recording this part of the podcast, that Outer Worlds 2 and Microsoft's other holiday first-party games are going down in price, interestingly.
What?
Yeah, so many people will remember / recall the big stink being thrown up when Outer Worlds 2, after the Microsoft showcase this year, everybody realized that Outer Worlds 2 is going to be the first $80 Xbox game, and it kind of caused a huge dust up of people just being like, "Yeah, it doesn't seem like an $80 game. Like, Call of Duty could have brunt that, but like, why is like all of these other games going to be $80?" Well, apparently Microsoft saw that backlash and that feedback and decided that was, we were in the wrong here. So, yeah, basically they said that their holiday games and first party, I guess, just going forward for now, are going to be $69.99 instead of $79.99 here in the US. Yeah, I don't really know how much that's going to impact Outer Worlds 2 specifically. I feel like that it kind of has a stink on it from that, and I don't think it's going to be that easy to get people to come back from it. I think people are just kind of written it off already. I'm still going to play it because I've been excited. I was going to play it if it was $80 anyway, but it's like, I don't know how much this decision will really reverse the fortune there.
Now you can play Outer Worlds 2 and buy 10 copies of Anthem as a bonus,
Pretty much.
No, this is weird because obviously Xbox is on the back foot. I think it's fair to say, despite they're like the sales of Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5 like outselling everything that's competing with. But in general, like Xbox, it's on the back foot in both terms of releases, but then also like just public image. So while this does feel like an obvious choice, it does stink that it's the Outer Worlds that has to take that kind of brunt and be like, oh yeah, well that whole fiasco is now attached to it. I also don't fully get the, I don't know, man. So like they Outer Worlds specifically posted this, statement about like, hey, dear galactic citizens, we've received your SOS via skip drive. That's all fine. It's essentially this like in-universe explanation that they're like cutting down the price. Sure. But then they also released this like GIF video that was like the Outer Worlds 2 breaking open the door and then smacking the pre-order button with the $80 price tag into a $60 price tag. Or sorry, $70 price tag, and I was just like, what is that? What does that mean? First of all, and then also like, what does that say about Xbox? Like, where is anyway? It's this weird thing. I don't understand the marketing behind it, but yeah, it sucks that Outer Worlds 2 had to fall like that. But honestly, I'm glad we're sticking with the $70 at least for now. For as long as we can, and I think it's especially like, if the game that you're offering, like, there has to be some good faith between the gamer and the company, right? The consumer and the company, however you want to say it, whatever the lingo is. But and I think Xbox is running on bad faith at this point, just kind of out of recent news. So
it's like you said, this was like a good start, but there's a lot more that they need to do to really kind of change their tune currently, because just knocking $10 off the price tag I don't think is going to do a whole lot for a lot of people. Talking about big companies and money, Nintendo, they are, according to Circana, Nintendo Switch 2 is the fastest selling Nintendo hardware launch in US history, I believe. And I saw the number earlier today that it was 1.6 million units sold in June, which that's a lot of Switch 2s.
Wow, yeah. Yes, absolutely. And honestly, it makes sense. It's also kind of, impressive that Nintendo has been able to keep them in stock now. Like, you can readily get a Switch 2. Like, it was a little bit of a bloodbath in the first like month, but like it's, the end of July at this point, and I could probably go on a website right now, Best Buy or Target or Amazon or something, and pick up a Switch 2. And this also comes off of the kind of heels of, so obviously 2 bundles that we know now for the game. Well, not 2 bundles. The main console is just Nintendo Switch 2. It's $450, here in the US. And then for $500, you get Mario Kart World with it. But then they've just announced that you can also there's a bundle with Pokemon Legends ZA. So, that's a nice little a bonus package. If I'm sure some people who don't necessarily care for the Mario Kart aspect, the diehard game freaks out there who want to get freaky with the new Nintendo hardware. Now you can. There's also, I believe, speaking of Donkey Kong Bonanza, has come out to rave reviews, and there's also so a lot of people are picking up the Switch 2 just for the Bonanza. Shout out Austin. He actually picked up essentially there's a GameStop bundle that includes both. So it's a bundle where you get the bundle with Mario Kart World, and on top of it you get Donkey Kong Bonanza. So it's
Oh,
two game
nice.
bundle. So he picked that up, and I'm sure he's happy with it. We'll got to get him back on
Yeah,
one of these. Retrograde coming back. What?
yeah. I also bought a copy of Donkey Kong, but I have not been able to play it yet, and I think I'm gonna have to put it on the back burner for a little bit. But I did get swept up as well in the all the buzz about it. I mean, you know me, a good 3D platformer. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with that, and Nintendo's essentially the masters at that. So I'm not really.
They really are, and I'm currently any possible excitement I would have. I'm not necessarily a 3D platformer guy, but I think recently, because I've come off of the excitement of Ruffy and the Riverside, that I've had my 3D platformer kick filled up for me, and so I'm not like chomping at the bits to get to the Switch 2, especially like paying like 400 like or sorry $530 or $580 to get both.
Mm-hmm.
That's a steep price still. We'll have to wait to for something truly, like, I don't know, for me, like, I'm not saying for you as the general audience who may or may not be enticed by the movements of Donkey Kong, the smashing of Donkey Kong, but I have to wait for something that truly kind of gets me off my couch and be like, okay, I have to get the Switch too. But I will say, all right, I can't, you can't quite escape if you're in the gaming sphere. You can't quite escape Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I there's something about the way he says "ooh banana" is so fucking satisfying. It just, like, it's stuck in my head for some reason.
It's
Yeah.
really weird for me because I don't know if this is a sentiment other people have, but it just makes me think of the Minions when I hear that. And so it's kind of like a negative connotation I have with it, honestly. It's like anytime I hear it's just like
it's the way he says it, dude. Like, it's the way he says, like, "ooh banana." It's great. Yeah, so that's a big one, honestly. Yes, good for Switch 2. Obviously, this is going to be a continually hotly selling console going into the later this year for the holiday season. So I'm sure those numbers will only go up.
Some rumors that there might be a Nintendo Direct before the month is out, and I really hope that those end up being true, because I'd like to. The fall is still like a little bit of a mystery. Like, we know Pokemon and we know probably Metroid are coming out, but it's like outside of that, not a whole lot. So I'd be curious to see if this.
What about that? What's that game with the wheels? It's like a wheelchair game, but they said it's not a wheelchair game. Dragon Drive, yeah. What's going on with that, man? Like,
I don't know.
That game is so weird because they've specifically gone out of the way to say that it's not like a wheelchair, and like it's. I imagine that they're trying to like capture the success of something like Splatoon, like, let's make this fun multiplayer game that, it's like, oh, this is the game of the Switch 2 or whatever. Maybe like ARMS, but like, it's lacking all the color. That game looks like,
I was gonna say, the issue
looks like they'll put these kids in a prison.
The issue is that Splatoon and ARMS have character, and this game doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure it's got to be on the calendar release, right? It's coming out later this year, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but anyway. I don't know about that one. I'd like to see something else than Dragon Drive.
Well, speaking of something else, Nick, Battlefield 6 is the official title of the next Battlefield game, which we've known for a little bit that it's going to be coming out before GTA 6, right? Like, we've confirmed, and I think it's pretty much the way that things are looking. It'll be announced soon. Well, it's the main topic of the episode, but just as a quick little bump right here, it's probably going to come out later this year. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be an interesting one because we're joking. EA's betting big with this thing. And they needed to hit. And speaking of, people really expected. Nope, hold on. I got it. Hold on. A lot of people are hoping that Battlefield 6 saves FPS games. All right, makes FPS games great again because the last runner-up kind of fumbled the ball. Splitgate 2, which was a kind of surprise launched during the Summer Game Fest, with the now iconic or notorious hat and bat combo. It's lost a lot of players. I mean, that's the big thing too. Like I was previously going to mention that on this episode about how it's lost a lot of its player base. But as a result of that, they've announced that Splitgate 2 is reverting back to a beta version for more testing.
Weird. I can't really recall that happening. I mean, it feels like something that probably has happened. Like, there's games like Multiverses, I guess, that were like in beta and then went away. But like, I
Sure.
can't recall an example of a game coming out to like a 1.0 and being like, actually, nah, we have to go back to beta. So yeah, that's a bit weird. I mean, based on what you were talking about when you guys played the Battle Royale or whatever, it just seems like the game is kind of like a weird mix mash all the way through.
Yeah. So they made this big statement, and they've essentially said, we believe in Splitgate 2, and we've heard your feedback. We agree with you. We launched too early. We had ambitious goals with Splitgate 2, and in our excitement to share it with you, we bit off more than we could chew. We rushed certain features, made some boneheaded mistakes, and more importantly, we didn't give you the polished portal field mayhem you fell in love with. So we're going back to beta. We'll be heads down until early next year, rebuilding major parts of the game to capture the spirit that made Splitgate special. That means reworking progression from the ground up, adding more portals to our map, simplifying monetization, refocusing on classic game modes you've been asking for, and more. And then they also announced that as part of this, they're also reducing. So they actually say, quote, to give ourselves the time to build Splitgate you deserve, we've made the incredibly difficult decision to reduce certain roles and shift our resources to focus on this rework. This is heartbreaking, and these are our teammates and our friends, and they helped build what we have today. Yes, another story of layoffs, but this one, I don't really know. I don't know if you could say this is necessarily an avoidable one. I don't know how that would have lined up anyway, but it sucks that. Here's the thing, right? Well, first of all, Nick, what's your take on this scenario before I give mine?
I mean, they're stating there that like they were too excited, right, and rushed certain features. I could see a world where the reality was Splitgate 2 had to come out when it did in order to try to save jobs, and now at this point, if it's already losing players and not bringing in the money that they were expecting, it would be understandable to me that it was like, okay, well, we tried, like now we have to pull the plug on some livelihoods here. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. Obviously, no matter what, like, you never want to hear that from any studio specifically.
I think part of it is that, and again, I do understand that, like, when we're speaking, like when we say anything in this podcast, it's really focusing on like the audience that we have. Like you, if you're watching the Respawn Station podcast, it's because you care about video games. You want to know what's going on in video games. Hence, we have a whole section just for what's going on in the gaming world, highlighting headlines and stuff. Oh, highlighting headlines. Oh, that's a great title. One fucking just came up with that. But I think that we're definitely tapped in, and I think it might be causing me to come to this conclusion. But I also do feel it's valid that indie games, by and large, have this kind of like, similar to what I was saying about Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers. It's like they're punching up, and when they're doing it in a certain way, like it's like endearing. It's like, you didn't even if you didn't quite nail everything, you get like a little bit of grace period and maybe a little bit more allowance to be like janky or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that them coming out so aggressively, right? Like clearly, like they were like we have to turn heads, like that has to be how we get the people into the game. Is for some reason was the conclusion that they came to. And I
Mhm.
think that immediately set off such a bad tone that it created a negative funk around the game that they couldn't like. It would have been a different thing if the game, if they came out and they said, "Hey, the game's coming out. We hope you enjoy it," and then it comes out and it's like, "Yes, no, maybe we didn't enjoy it, but like, hey, like, these are your notes, fix it, type of thing." But like, I mean, look, if you can go back to the episodes because this has happened in real time over the last 2 months, and there's I specifically mentioned how there's like a little tiff. I don't know what the word is, but like a little back and forth between like the COD developers and Splitgate 2 about like, oh, you're like, they essentially like fired shots at the Call of Duty developers, both on stage and offline, like, online too. Again, just a little, I don't know,
Mhm.
feels poorly timed, and I think that kind of actively has led to some of the negativity. I'm not saying it destroyed the game and is the reason why things are happening the way they are, but
Yeah.
there you
I
go. That's my Splitgate 2 spiel.
yeah, I think it definitely set the wrong tone going into it, and that's kind of the yeah, it really, now that you've like listed it out like that, it feels like a marketing scheme that went horribly wrong and like just completely backfired completely. And like
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's weird because like they are technically indie, but I still like I don't get that sensation with how it's been like marketed and carried. Like even in our discussions, where it's like I feel like Splitgate 1 was the indie one, and Splitgate 2 was like the oh we got the big checks now. We can make this like a big boy game, and like
Yeah.
it just kind of I don't know snowballed from there.
I find this as like the Joseph Ferris impact, where you look at it on the surface level and it's like, oh, maybe like being abrasive is like how we get attention. But I think that only really works when you have like, I don't know, it might be too early to say this about that team at Hazelight and everything, but like, when you have like a more of an authorship kind of video game, which you might not consider like any of, you might or might not. I'm not. I know I'm playing a level playing field here, right? Um, you might not think that Hazelight games are that like high art or whatever, but like at the very least, they are absolutely nailing what they're going for. At the very least, the experience that they're trying to create, they've nailed. And there's
Yeah.
a certain kind of confidence that comes with it that you can't just be like, hey, oh, fuck you, and then play my game, and then expect
Yeah,
it to work out.
that's the difference because Joseph Ferris can go on stage at the Game Awards and say our game kicks fucking ass and like can say all this stuff, and then people play it and it's like yeah he's right, like it
He's
does.
right.
So
He wasn't kidding.
you kind of need a good game to back up that confidence at the end of the day.
Yes, yes. Now, whew, we got a few more. You know what? We'll stick with the good stuff before we get to the dour news. Some new announcements. First of all, breaking news. Nick, give me a breaking news sound effect. Breaking news. There is a brand new Lollipop Chainsaw game in the works, in development, along with an anime. Nick, what are your thoughts? Do you think James Gunn is going to return hot off the heels of Superman's success to write Lollipop Chainsaw 2?
No. I can answer that with pretty good confidence. Yeah, this is a very kind of strange announcement, but I guess not all that surprising. The rights to Lollipop Chainsaw, I guess, are with this other group now that is handling this new sequel. They did the Lollipop Chainsaw Repop that came out like last year. It was kind of like a remaster of the 360 slash PS3 game. I originally was interested in this game because it was headed up by Suda51 and Grasshopper Manufacture and everything. Obviously a big Suda fan. And like a really weird snapshot in time because you mentioned like James Gunn was like a writer on it. It was like kind of before Guardians of the Galaxy, I think. So it was like right before he became like a household name, I would say, for like, big Marvel and superhero projects and stuff. But it's a very style over substance kind of game, I guess I'd say. Like, it has a lot of that Suda kind of style to it, but if you play it, most people agree it's kind of just like a run-of-the-mill kind of hack and slash type of game. And I think it was fun, but it clearly didn't light the world on fire. And I also kind of felt,
I think it did develop like this cult following though, right? Like
sure,
over the years,
yeah, for
that I
sure.
think helped it. But yeah,
Yeah, the thing is that when the remaster got announced, it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then it came out that like Suda wasn't involved in the remaster. I guess this is where the rights at some point kind of changed hands and stuff. So he wasn't really involved in that. Seemingly not involved in this new game
this
and
one,
this
yeah.
anime. So I mean, I think texturally the world of Lollipop Chainsaw, like, sure, like, go ahead and make a sequel in an anime. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
at a surface level, I think you could do some interesting things with it. But I also haven't played the remaster, and I don't know how that really kind of stacks up to the original, if it feels like, there's missing content or if things were changed and stuff like that. So it it's kind of like I'm here and here, and it's just like
Sure.
it's an interesting announcement, I suppose, to put it succinctly.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we would not have found out about it if we didn't have technical technical issues before the show started.
Oh, one thing that I guess I
Now,
can add in randomly is that it was pointed out when I was watching, I think, Minmax or something a while ago. No, actually, I think it was kind of funny. It was during the Summer Game Fest period, and they were talking about Romeo is a Dead Man, and in the game, the new upcoming Suda game, Romeo is a Dead Man, you play as Romeo Stargazer, and in Lollipop Chainsaw, the main
oh,
character
Juliet.
is Juliet Starling. So kind of
Yeah.
like some interesting little parallels there.
Oh, look at
So
that. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah. Uh, cool. Yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw game coming out eventually. I mean, hey, this is just in development. They're probably just getting ahead of leaks or whatnot. So
sure.
we'll see more of that soon. Now we're gonna skip around here because I want to throw one thing that I just remembered, and I pulled it up to make sure I'm getting it the credit that's due. Game that's been on my backlog for a bit, and as you might have heard, as in our last episode, as we were trying to figure out what games to play next, this might have an impact on when I play this game. The game in question is Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I've owned the game for a bit, but I'm like, when am I going to play it? Maybe that'll be December 5th, because on December 5th, 2025, you can experience the Western frontier from a new perspective. So they're adding a third person mode to the game, which is actually kind of crazy that, like, the game is entirely designed as first person. And so to then redesign it to kind of be playable in third person is kind of crazy. Not like, how in a Starfield or something where it's like part of the package from the start.
Hmm.
Similar to like how I think like Cyberpunk at this point can't be designed as a third person. It's just too much work. They're also adding New Game Plus and and a bunch of quality of life improvements. So again, all that coming on December 5th. I'm very much so curious about that. I'm hoping to get around to it soon because again, Ubisoft has this place in me or place in my collection where it's like at any given point, there's probably like two Ubisoft games in my backlog that I'm like, maybe this is the time I play it. So currently, that's Avatar and Star Wars Outlaw. We'll see which one I get to first.
I feel like they announced this at
Um,
the right time because it feels like everybody forgot about Avatar already. And so it's
yeah,
like now just
yeah,
back on the scene again. It's just like, oh, cool, third person mode. That's neat.
yeah. And then they also released some like a DLC or expansion pack too. So that, maybe that'll some cross pollination there, perhaps. Skipping around once again, we have some dour news from Supermassive, the developers of Until Dawn and most recently the Dark Pictures anthology. They've put out a statement saying, quote, the games industry remains a challenging and ever-evolving environment. As we adapt our team structure to better align with these changes, we've had to make the very difficult decision to begin a redundancy consultation process where we anticipate losing up to 36 of our colleagues. I'm not going to read more of that, but they've also kind of said that the launch of Directive 8020 has been pushed to the first half of 2026. Um, And they also said there's no impact in development of Little Nightmares 3. Man, I will say, like, an absolute, like, a yuck on the fucking phrase, very difficult decision to begin a redundancy consultation process. What the fuck? What kind of corporate vomit is that? Oh my God, that was gross. Anyway,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. It sucks that, the 36 colleagues or potentially 36 colleagues are losing their jobs, and obviously that makes sense that the game's going to be delayed as well. But yeah, hopefully that I know Supermassive, like, it was one of those weird things where, like, Until Dawn was such a huge hit, and then, like, I think maybe The Quarry was a big one in kind of general success, but the Dark Pictures anthology did not kind of land as strongly, I think, as I think they were hoping for. And they had like four swings in that thing, right? Like there's four different
Mhm.
ones or something like that in the Dark
Yeah.
Pictures anthology. So um hoping that this one is a real hit and maybe fills into that, like, that Dead Space kind of sci-fi horror space that people kind of want.
Yeah, at the very
Speaking of,
least,
oh, go ahead,
the
go ahead.
at the very least, the Directive 8020 visually, like as it being sci-fi, I think does set it pretty well apart from a lot of the other Dark Pictures ones. I haven't played all of them. I've only really played Man of Medan, but like in my mind, they all feel kind of like contemporary horror. And so it's
Sure.
just like, having like something set in the stars in space with aliens and stuff, like at least visually, I think it'll be differentiated a bit more than those first
Yeah.
couple games.
Yes, no, I agree. And speaking of space horror, though, have you seen the earlier today the Bloober team had a little gameplay showcase where they showed off 10 minutes of Chronos, the New Dawn?
I saw the it like recommended to me, but I didn't end up watching it yet.
It's cool. I mean, man, Bloober really has like this great sense of building atmosphere, and this one definitely feels a little bit more of like the layers of fear in terms of like the puzzles and that kind of aspect of it. But regardless, I mean, just like the game obviously looks good, but the kind of just the way that everything is built, the environment looks, and the sound effects and everything, it builds nicely. Looking forward to that one for sure. Um, Now let's see what else we got here. You know what? We'll actually hit the last one as it leads me to what we're going to talk about next. So, ladies and gentlemen, there was for the horror. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Quick pivot. Let me just quickly. I just realized, quick inbox segment here. Uh, First of all, as you guys might know, I talked about and reviewed a game called Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days. That game just received its second major update, and this is early access update number 2. And the key features here are there's a survivor infection system. So fighting back against zombies is now more dangerous because your survivors can essentially, there's a chance that they get infected after the encounter. So in
Mm-hmm.
that event, the untreated infections turn survivors into zombies. So prepare for difficult decisions about exiling members from your shelter. There's also new zombie threats, kind of roaming the streets. There's a new survivor that you can find and recruit around Texas called Vince, and there's also new difficulty settings, so you can tailor each trip with preset difficulty settings from casual, hard, or normal to custom. I like the way to create a customized nightmare. So there you go, get your custom nightmare. That's a really, I'm looking forward to playing more of that. Hopefully, it'll hit 1.0 at a reasonable time for me to get into it. Um, the next thing though is kind of the big one. Ooh, do I want to throw this in there? Can I talk about this? I can talk about this. Uh, you know what? For the people that are looking for a story driven music related game, Lichtund. I apologize. That's a developer name. And Team 17 Digital have showed a behind the scenes look or behind the curtain look at gameplay from the grungy story driven band management sim Rock Beasts. So this is sort of like a visual novel, but also like it has the aesthetic and maybe the comedy style of like BoJack Horseman. But yeah, so you like you're managing your band, you pick the venue, you prep the set, you make sure everything goes to plan. It has fully voiced characters, including one from including a character that's voiced by none other than Iggy Pop himself. And Iggy Pop coming off the hot off the heels of Superman. And then also, I thought this is mainly the reason why I wanted to throw this in there as well. So the game has also 17 full tracks to play at your gigs, performed and mastered just for rock beasts. That's a cool fact. But it's being written by acclaimed video game writer Nick Jacob Sismalek, senior writer of The Witcher 3, principal writer of Cyberpunk 2077, and the upcoming Blood of Dawn Walker. So there you go. And lastly, the big news here for the horror heads in the room, Hellraiser's back, baby, or Pinhead, I should say, is back. And you can find out all about it over on respawnstation.com, because this was a game that certainly caught my eye. So I obviously had to do a little bit of writing on it. So you can check out respawnstation.com. But for the gist of it, Pinhead has returned. Clive Barker's Hellraiser revival from Saber Interactive and Boss Team Games is a single-player survival game set in the iconic horror movie franchise. In the upcoming game, players follow the story of Aiden, who must unlock the dark powers of the Genesis configuration to help his girlfriend from a hellish abyss. It'll be coming out for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. There's no date on it yet, but obviously you can wishlist it. And there is an official trailer that you can watch on YouTube. But if you go to their website, you can watch the Red Band trailer, and it's inappropriate. So you can also do that. It's way more like in line with what Hellraiser is if you've watched the movies, though. But with that said, that leads us to the ad break, and of course, this episode is brought to you by RespawnStation.com, where, of course, you can go check out information about Clive Barker's Hellraiser revival, which is great. But also, you can read the 10 times longer, all right, 10 times longer, the review for The Altars from our own Nick Sivak. He's done it. He's put all his thoughts on the game into Word. You've obviously, if you're a regular listener, you would have heard his thoughts last episode, but now you can read them, and I promise they're much better worded. I don't mean to sound rude when I say that.
I gotta apologize though, because I have a hard time writing succinct reviews. I feel like my reviews are more so critiques, if that makes it feel a bit more justifiable how long they end up being. But yeah, we should also mention that you'd put some work in on the website recently and changed some stuff around. And there's a fancy little read time counter on most of those articles now, which was pretty illuminating.
Yes. Yeah. So we did a redesign of the website, which is another reason why you should go check it out. There's actually a few things, right? So with the respawnstation.com, the first thing, we don't cover news as often, but like Hellraiser, if something really catches our eye, we'll be like, oh yeah, let's go cover this, just to have it there for the posterity. And again, so that when we want to talk about a game, when we're excited about a game, and just story-driven survival horror games obviously get my juices going, but add in a good horror IP and iconic horror movie monster, and you got a good package to entertain me, at least. So that's why we got Hellraiser on there. But no, now you can also check out the podcast, because we realized that we're not like the website. If you go to the website, it didn't look like we were active as often as we are. But now, if you go to the website, as soon as you hit the homepage, you can check out the latest episode of the Respawn Station podcast. Tune in, have us playing on the side while you're reading Nick's review for The Altars, or like my last 4 reviews combined at the same rate. But no, the time read thing is it's an estimate. It's not guaranteed, but it's a good kind of, you can pace yourself that way. And also the final thing, we did the impossible. We lowered the ads. We realized that as I don't know, man. There's a certain point where I was like, we're not making enough off of these ads to be like to like keep the lights on or something, right? Like,
Hmm.
and there's a point where I was just like, there's maybe perhaps too many ads. And while sure it makes sense for someone that's like a big website to have ads because they need that shit to like just keep running and pay their employees, where we don't have those problems yet. So the ads have taken a back seat. They're much more subdued nowadays in the this week, as starting this week. So check out respawnstation.com. Go click some articles, read some stuff. It's good for your brain, all right? There you go. It's good for your brain. Sometimes it's great to listen to stuff. All right? Look, well, that's why we're giving you the content this way. But sometimes you need to read stuff and process it and analyze it and
Gotta
use that brain.
stretch those pupils.
Yeah, exactly. So, with that said, that's it for the ad break. And Nick, we're going to do something unceremonious here. And we're going to cut to the main topic. So, here we go. Wow. That was a hell of a sit down. Now, look, in the last 24 hours, which is how long it's been since we recorded the first half of that episode, Nick, which of these three things happened? Or I'll say, which of these three things didn't happen? A, the Battlefield 6 reveal trailer came out and we both watched it. B, I watched Fantastic Four, The First Steps. C, I beat the boss in Wu Chang Fallen Feathers that I had mentioned in my review. You don't have faith in me. I did all of them happened. I beat the boss. I watched Fantastic Four, and here we are to talk about Battlefield 6. The reveal trailer came out, and boy, do we have some thoughts. So to kind of keep this as focused as possible, we want to have a few different sections that we go through. First of all, we're going to talk about obviously just our reactions to the Battlefield 6 reveal trailer. In a few days, there's going to be a multiplayer reveal, which we'll talk about in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. Then we're going to go to kind of just general information about what you need to know about this game. Kind of hard facts that we know. And then we'll get to the kind of big topic, big question about how EA's betting big on Battlefield 6 this year, and they really needed to succeed. And lastly, we'll talk about maybe their lofty goals and then maybe how they can reach them. What to do and not to do. So with all that said, Nick, literally right before we sat down, we watched the trailer again. So what did you think of Battlefield 6 reveal? A little 2 minute 20 seconds or so of CGI, a little bit of gameplay action going on.
Okay, a lot's happening in the edit right now. My lights are burnt out. We just finished the discussion. I found out my mic wasn't on for part of it. So here we go. Here's my thoughts on Battlefield 6's trailer, right? I think it's a very interesting trailer. I think it's a well-made trailer. It's definitely a trailer that I've gone back to a couple times already to rewatch. And I think that's a really, a good mark of a good trailer that I, want to go back and re-experience these moments that happen in the trailer. And yeah, I think the modern setting is interesting. I like the focus that they have on the destructible environments and stuff, even though it is like a cinematic trailer. There's definitely a heavy emphasis on, buildings crumbling, helicopters crashing, like you mentioned, and, just the kind of like Battlefield sandbox that these games typically have. Very cinematic, a lot of little references in there to like Top Gun with the planes and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it was a good first look at the game, and I'm definitely interested to see more in the coming months here.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, by the way, on this trailer. Here's a really weird fun fact. So if the full trailer is up on the site. It came out earlier today, and it has almost 5 million views as of when we're currently talking about it. But if you go to the Battlefield website and then watch the trailer from there, it's an unlisted version of the trailer that has 2,000 views. Not sure what the difference is, but anyway, so yeah, this is the first look at this finally, what I think people are going to be bored of calling, the return to form, the return to the roots, whatever you want to say for Battlefield. Nick, you are correct that we haven't really talked about Battlefield too much on the podcast, and I think that's probably because Battlefield's really not had a good run since we started this podcast. Like we haven't had the opportunity to talk about it because I mean 2042 I did review it for the site, but it just wasn't like it didn't keep my interest for a very long time. And regarding like what you mentioned about like 5 and 1, I think the thing that was personally missing from those games was that while like visually they looked really stunning, right? Um, they didn't have, because they were all like set in the past. They didn't have the cities that like, or like the architecture of cities to have evolution and have these like in Battlefield 4 when that building's coming down, it's because it's a gigantic building and there's like gameplay systems built into that building in terms of like you can go up the elevators and there's like it's a vantage point or a choke point or whatever, and then that can go away based on player action, and there's like this kind of I don't know, inherent cool factor to that, I guess. But with the subsequent games, they've missed it, and then in Battlefield 2048, they've introduced. I mean, they've always had it, but they really kind of amped up this the not I don't know if they have a name for it. I don't know if they coined a name for it, but it's like the environmental stuff where like tornadoes will tear through the map and stuff like that. But all that to say, it's just the setup for the expectations on this game to be good and to be it has a lot of weight running on it. And so the first impressions are positive for me. Like it looks really nice. Like it's definitely a darker color palette overall. It's not like it's not washed out to that blue thing that like Battlefield 3 had. It sort of reminds me of like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare's color palette. And you got to go back and compare. But that being said, it still has the cinematic quality of what I think made Battlefield 3 specifically kind of a little bit special and interesting. And then obviously, we're bringing that to even like a higher fidelity because this game is coming to new gen consoles. By the way, it's something we do have confirmation on. It's not coming to PS4. It's not coming to Xbox One. This is PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC as of now. I don't know about the Switch 2 future for this game, but
Doubtful.
That being said, yeah, like it looks really nice. It has kind of we get very brief vignettes here and there of kind of like what you can expect in the campaign, but it does have that thing, coming off of Battle or Death Stranding 2, where like it has a mountainscape shot where like there's a lot of shadow work and shadow detail that I just really like that brings environments to life in really kind of realistic ways for me. So with all that said, I'm excited, and Nick and I both agree there's a point in this trailer, which they try to do it for like all these trailers, where the Battlefield theme comes in, and it first of all, let me just say it's still I love to see it. It does not touch Battlefield 3's trailer. Like there is a moment in Battlefield 3. I occasionally go back to rewatch Battlefield 3's trailer because of how well the song is mixed, like the Battlefield theme is mixed into that trailer. And like distinctly I remember like the character falls into the water and like the sound gets muffled and then it comes back in. Like it's yeah, beautifully edited. But no, first of all, first impressions pretty positive. So let's talk about the facts, right? Let's talk about what we know about Battlefield 6 for those of you who are, looking maybe for a one-stop shop. This is as of like the reveal, what we know. Obviously, on July 31st, we'll find out more about just Battlefield 6, specifically multiplayer, they say, but I'm sure just in general we'll get more kind of gameplay and stuff like that. This is being developed, by the way, by Battlefield Studios, which is a amalgamation of multiple studios under EA, because obviously Battlefield is historically a DICE game. So this one also has DICE Ripple Effect, Motive, and Criterion, which is not the movie collection. It's just it's a studio. It's a game studio.
Criterion,
So
known for their work on Need for Speed.
Need for Speed, yeah. So very interesting. The EA is really throwing a lot at this game, and I guess we'll kind of bundle it in together a little bit as we discuss kind of like both what we know and what I think EA is kind of putting into it. Um, I'll quickly read the description of the game, kind of as it sets up the kind of narrative stakes here. So, witness the vicious path of destruction carved by the Pax Armata, the world's leading private military company. First of all, PAX. I mean, it just kind of makes me think of the Expo. PAX pursues the destruction of NATO and its allies. Just like, yeah, it is. They are talking about the Expo, stopping at nothing to uphold their motto: "Our protection, your peace." Lock and load the ultimate all-out warfare experience. Fight in high-intensity infantry combat, rip through the skies in aerial dogfights, demolish your environments for a strategic advantage. In a war of tanks, fighter jets, and massive combat arsenals, your squad is the deadliest weapon. This is Battlefield 6. Okay. All right, classic, you got to hype you up. You are the action. Nick, what was your thoughts on like them? Look, I don't think they ever really fully rehash it. Like Battlefield 2048 was a huge, like, the community. Like this is all about like this is the multiplayer game you've been waiting for, right? And so it had all like that. That 2048 trailer had like recreation of iconic fan moments in the community and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the hopping out of the jet, shooting. Like that whole thing. What's the level that they can ride on that again? Going into this new one.
So I will say real quick, just so that we don't get raked over the coals here, it's 2042, not 48.
It's 20. Fuck. Damn it. All right. Thank you.
So we can get out ahead of the comments of the controversy there. But to answer your question, what can they do to kind of follow in the stream of that kind of marketing cycle, I guess, for 2042? We talked about it off podcast or off recording, but I think they did kind of burn their hand with doing the fan moment kind of tributes that, they could have done with 2042, where like, they have the C4 Jeep or the like jumping out of a jet and shooting it with a rocket kind of thing. I don't think that they can do that again. I also don't think that they are going to try to do that again. The kind of sense that I get from this trailer and the reveal specifically, and even how they've been talking about it prior to officially revealing it, is that this is probably going to be much more grounded, I think. Like, obviously, it's going to have that larger-than-life Battlefield kind of flavor and feel to it, but I don't think you're going to get, like, in the marketing at least, like, the more kind of wacky, community-focused kind of Battlefield stuff. Maybe if they bring back, like, Battlefield Portal, I could see them doing that in that kind of a trailer, but for, like, campaign or multiplayer and that sort of stuff, I really don't think that they're going to lean into that. I think what they are going to lean into are things like destructible environments, that kind of cinematic feel that you mentioned when we were talking about the trailer before. Like, I think you're going to get these like curated kind of like tense or like action-packed kind of scenes for a lot of the trailers. And I think that that's what they're honestly going to lean into more so than, let's say, like crowd-pleasing kind of gestures. Yeah, like I said, I think they kind of already burned that from 2042, and even from this reveal trailer, I feel like this is kind of like a stamp being like, okay, this is going to be a different game than 2042. Like, we heard the feedback, we heard that we messed some things up. This is going to be, tonally very different.
Yeah, thankfully they didn't write on that as of now. Again, this is the reveal trailer, so there's we have room in the runway for them to, still sneak him in there. As of now, the current state of things suggests that this is going to be somewhere like an October timeline for this game's release, which also makes sense. Usually, the Call of Duty and Battlefields always come out October, November, December timeline. Generally speaking, so here in this trailer, that like there's one moment specifically with the jets where I was like, "Oh, are they going to do it?" But no, I actually say it's more of like a Top Gun Maverick, little nod than I guess previous Battlefield games. Though
Hmm.
that is something to kind of I guess think about, and I don't know if it's on the top of their mind, readily as they're developing the game. But I do think that Maverick was a huge movie, and like that. There's a new kind of a fuel in that, like the fighter jet like action, kind of space, and so
Yeah,
throwing that into the mix will be nice.
I think even from just that one shot, I have a feeling that that entire mission, this is speculation, by the way, obviously we don't know anything.
Sure, sure.
Whatever mission that is in the campaign, I feel like that is going to be like 1-to-1 that bombing mission from Top Gun Maverick. Because you think about how like fighter jet or like dogfight missions happen in Battlefield games, it's usually like way up in the air, and like, it's your standard like dogfight thing, like tail the enemies, shoot them around and stuff. It would be a breath of fresh air gameplay wise if it's like, okay, you need to be under the SAM missile sites, so that means you have to be
Yeah,
dodging
yeah.
and weaving through bridges and mountains and stuff. It's like, it seems like a no-brainer that's going to be an entire like homage mission to Top Gun.
And specifically that shot is actually like pretty low, like like the shot of the fighter jet kind of going parallel, or not parallel, like I don't know what the maneuver is called,
Nose
but
up, I
technically,
guess.
yeah, nose up. It's actually like you can see the trees below, like it's in a valley between mountains. So I could totally see it. And there's also like amphibious vehicles and stuff, like that's something that I know Battlefields has missed in the recent times. Like I don't think 2048 had that, and obviously 5 and 1 I don't think really had that either. Again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Or 20? Did I say 2048 again? I
Yeah,
don't.
2042.
Who cares? Anyway, no, I'll try to remember. But yeah, I'm glad they moved past that. There's some exciting things coming up regarding like the bringing back amphibious vehicles and stuff. What else you got for Battlefield 6 in terms of just like
um
what we've seen so far?
One thing that I think is interesting that has been absent for a while, if it was in 2042, they didn't really make it that clear. But uh, specifically shots of warfare happening on US soil. Um
Yeah, it's
a,
in Brooklyn.
a lot of the previous games have been outside of the United States, and I know that at least on the multiplayer front, I was watching like some Jack Frags videos or something a while ago, and it was like, it's been a while since we've been able to play in like these environments and stuff. So I think that's an interesting choice. It honestly, like, again, this might just be the nostalgia talking to me or whatever, but anytime I see that, it just kind of makes me think of Modern Warfare 2, original Modern Warfare 2, with like the invasion of America and all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that at least speaks to a little bit more intrigue for me personally in the actual like campaign and the story that they're telling, because I feel like a lot of military shooters naturally in the mid 2000s were very like, war in the Middle East kind of focused, and that
yeah.
kind of colored a lot of the story, the level designs, the art
And the
direction.
literal color, yeah.
Yeah, so um it being modern, but like all they're, it's still bouncing around to different locales, so I think that's at least interesting. No real comment to say specifically on whether that's a
It-
good or bad thing, but
my prediction. There's part of this trailer that reminds me of last year's one of my favorite movies from last year, Civil War. It's not necessarily the same thing because again, just reading off of what they kind of showed in the description, this is like is a armed military group, like a private military group that's kind of doing these attacks, packs as we've discussed. It I wonder. It's probably PAX East, to be honest. They're always the rebellious ones. But it's sort of my guess again. Nick threw out a hypothetical situation. I got to throw one out there as well. It kind of feels like the president will be like the twist will be like it's the president actually. It's the president owns the PAX. He's giving them the orders. Either the president or vice president. Something's got to happen there. But anyway,
Clip it.
um,
Like if that happens, that would be crazy from the reveal trailer that you call that.
but no, I am looking forward to playing this campaign at the very base level. It gives us at least that much excitement. We also see a little bit of that. Like again, we don't know how much of this is like campaign footage versus like multiplayer stuff, but there is a sequence where like a dam is exploding, and again, like kind of sort of like the Levolution stuff that Battlefield 4 had. Going a little bit back to what we know about the game or potentially know about the game, along with somewhere around an October release date, this is going to be another $80 game, which it's no surprise unless maybe people put up enough fuss. They could follow suit of the like Xbox and reduce the price, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think
by and large, I mean, $80 is not surprising.
I've seen a lot of comments already and videos popping up in my sub feed of people saying like don't pre-order, and I think that that's more so a response to 2042's launch and the kind of problems that game faced more so than it is like a price backlash. But I'm sure they'll look for any ammo that they can in that fight. So yeah, maybe if EA does notice that the pre-order numbers aren't doing good, maybe they will pull a Microsoft and drop it another $10 and see if that has any kind of impact on that. But I don't really know if it is more so a groundswell of people from 2042 being like, okay, they've said this multiple times now, that DICE magic or whatever, and the games keep coming out buggy on release. So
yeah. I will also say, and this might be a little bit of a pensive topic, I suppose, to bring up, but I feel like watching this trailer, and I certainly don't mean it as a negative, but it feels more in line with the recent Call of Duty Modern Warfare games in tone than it does to a Battlefield game. And again, that's not a bad thing, but specifically, I mean, look, the easy comparison is like, oh, there's a night vision sequence, 100%. This is a clean house. But you have to imagine that these things are actively what they're looking at to, like to make the game, right? Like these are, they're looking at the competition and what the bar that has been set, which the bars here was set 6 years ago by Modern Warfare in 2019. But where the bar is and how to meet it, which I think kind of takes us into what EA's kind of going on here, or what EA's dictating here, because yeah, this is reportedly is we're getting into some of the reportedly stuff, but a lot of this kind of lines up with what we generally know about how much is riding on this game. So this has an upward of $400 million budget, which is not crazy considering like I do think that Call of Duty games have that same budget, so it makes sense they're kind of like upping it to the competition that they're going for. And they're really riding on a lot of players going into it. I believe what the estimates were was like 100 million players, which I believe the highest player count for a Battlefield game before that was somewhere in the 30 million. So it's a lofty goal to kind of, again, just offhandedly say we were expecting more than three times the player count of the last highest, Battlefield release.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Essentially, with that, again, there's nothing confirmed, but obviously each of the studios that you mentioned that are working as a part of Battlefield Studios kind of have a different focus, right? So one of them, I think it's possibly Motive, is doing the campaign, and then DICE is doing the multiplayer. Ripple Effect is doing something else, and Criterion's also doing something else. So you have to imagine with 100 million estimate for players, one of those has to be some kind of free to play mode, a la Warzone, right? Because it's like they really haven't had that. They've tried it, like Battlefield 5 had Operation Firestorm, which was their battle royale, but like you still had to buy the game to access that. Like it wasn't free. And 2042 also, I don't believe has any free modes. It's like it was given out for PlayStation Plus and stuff like that, so like people have accessed it for free, but I don't think there was ever like a free to play component of that game. So I certainly think that would be the smart thing to do if you were trying to hit, triple your previous best players, is to just get rid of the paywall completely. As for what that mode looks like, is it a battle royale? Do they try something different? I don't know. Like I could see it being battle royale. At the same time, I feel like we're kind of in that time now, finally, where people are just like, okay, we're sick of it. Like, do something different. So whether it's an extraction shooter, I think 2042 did have like an extraction mode, but yeah, I don't know.
That 100%. I do think that in order to get that, Call of Duty numbers, I think that some sort of free to play thing is, it feels natural to have, like that. That is an expectation to have. I can't help but bring up the fact that Halo also tried a similar thing. I don't necessarily know if they're learning the right lessons from this, but Halo similarly had like a free multiplayer, anyone could play. And then there was also then the campaign was where they had a lot riding on it. They sold that, and then it kind of they went up going back on a lot of the promises that I think they were made back then. Now, well, look, part of this, right, the pressure that's on right now on Battlefield Studios, this culmination of 4 different, very talented studios. I mean, it does suck that Criterion is not making another Need for Speed game, but this is
Battlefield
I think
Kart?
the prime. Dude, oh dang!
Maybe we're looking in the wrong spot. Maybe they're not going for Call of Duty; they're going for Mario Kart, and that's the numbers that they want to hit 100 million with.
That would be the play. That would be the play. So there's a lot of there's a lot of writing on it, but if there's ever a time for it to happen, I think it would be now, right? Like currently. It's the ebb and flow of the industry, of specifically the first person shooter genre, and it happens all the time. There's a natural kind of cycle to things, and Call of Duty, while it all obviously, like we've said, I think we might have said Call of Duty more times than we said Battlefield in this discussion because it's such a big deal. But it's a juggernaut. But it always, like, the public opinion about these games fluctuates. There's like Modern Warfare initially. 1 and 2, people were like, "This is peak." Black Ops 1, like this is peak, and then it kind of fell down, and then it obviously came back up, and now I think we're kind of falling down again. That maybe perhaps there's some fatigue there, from just the yearly releases, or I think in recent years, especially like the fact that they're releasing like 2 back-to-back games in the same series, like Modern Warfare, and then another Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and then another Black Ops. I think that could be leading to it. But that being said, Battlefield's always been the Call of Duty killer, the Call of Duty competitor, the game that will usurp Call of Duty's power or throne. I don't know what the phrase or saying there is. But they've been in a similar situation before, Nick. All right? I'll take you back to God damn it, why did I look it up? Nearly 10 years ago, in 2016, when Call of Duty had just put out the trailer for one of they just put out their most disliked trailer for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Everyone was like, "God damn, this sucks." All right, and then Battlefield had this chance to. While everyone was like, we're done with the future. We don't want that future bullshit. And Battlefield's like, we got you. Boots on the ground. World War I. All right. Now, I actually don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head. But I am fairly confident saying Infinite Warfare outsold Battlefield 1, just out of a base, like just out of the fact that Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered was involved. I will look it up.
That would be an interesting point of comparison. I really don't know that because I would Battlefield 1 I think is probably the best selling one that they've put out since like 3. Like I feel like I don't know for certain obviously, but I feel like 1 was even sold more than 4 by the end of its run.
So, here's what I can pull up, right? It seems that Battlefield 1 in the first week had 3.46 million sales, I believe. Hold on, let me look. Oh no, hold on. So yeah, okay, no. So it says Battlefield 1 was a commercial success, selling over 15 million copies. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check what Infinite Warfare was. Uh, oh, actually, maybe not. So it says Call of Duty Infinite Warfare 13.6 million.
I mean, to your point, people really did not want that game when they announced it. So that honestly does not surprise me that they probably did get the leg up on Call of Duty that time.
Yeah, but still, regardless of that, like right, like it is, you know, very they've not entirely, even if they held that kind of the ball for a little bit, they did not hold on to that ball and have subsequently fumbled it, afterwards. And so it's their time again, and it's really the longevity of how they support these games, going out when Battlefield 6 comes out. I don't expect it to be a perfect game. It's hard to when you're kind of working with multiplayer games of this scale. But that being said, how do you support it? How do you keep that alive? I think there's a lot of people who felt, myself included, who felt that like 2042's I listen. Like side mode, which essentially allowed you to play the older like Bad Company maps, was more interesting than like the new maps and stuff that came with,
Mm-hmm.
but just Battlefield 2042. So yeah, it's I don't know if they can. There's a lot of pressure. I'll say that much. I don't necessarily think that they have like I don't have faith in them or anything, but it's a lot of pressure that they have to live up to, not just from obviously the fans, but or I guess not just from the executives, but from the fans that really want something to be delivered here.
Yeah.
Anything specifically that kind of comes to mind for you?
Yeah, actually, there is one key kind of component here that we haven't really mentioned that I do think has a tangible impact, at least on my excitement for this game, but also I feel like some other people, and it has to do with a specific person. So we think of Sony or whatever, like, auteur kind of game directors, right? You got your Hideo Kojimas, you got your Todd Howard at Bethesda and everything. Everybody has their person. And there's one person that I think has a marketable name under EA and has repeatedly given them hit after hit all these years, and that is Vince Zampella. And he was named the head of Battlefield for EA going into this game's development, right? And I think Vince Zampella has proven himself time and time again with the projects that he takes on that he understands how to make really great first-person shooters. And obviously, we've mentioned it multiple times on this podcast. Games are not made by a single person, right? But occasionally when you have somebody that has a very strong vision at the helm, you typically will result in projects that at least can hit the marks that they're looking for, right? And
Yep.
Whether it was Titanfall, whether it was Apex Legends, or prior to his time at EA when he was working on Call of Duty, it's like, the Modern Warfare games under Vince Zampella, like, we've talked about it. They're the best games in the entire franchise, right? So I think having a game with Vince at the head will probably feel different than the last couple years of Battlefield, and like just in that intangible kind of like feeling when you're playing the game. I feel like we're gonna be sitting there with the controls in our hands and being like, oh, this feels like they get it this time, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I don't really know how to describe that feeling, but it's just kind of a gut feeling that I have that like we're gonna be playing it and it's gonna be like, oh, this was Battlefield, right? Like they found it, they got it back. So,
I will talk about that as well, but let me just quickly, add, add a little caveat to what I was saying, because it turns out while I was wrong in the long sense, the long term, I might have had a point there, because it seems that even though Battlefield 1 had initially a head start, because I think it came out like 2 or 3 weeks before Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, by the end of that year, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare actually had sold more copies. Again, I think Modern Warfare Remastered was a huge factor of that.
mm-hmm.
And specifically, I think it kept that pacing of outselling Battlefield 1 for a while. And I think eventually, Battlefield 1 might have taken over. But specifically, the numbers that I was referring to, it was so as of January 2018, which is a while ago now. That is when Infinite Warfare was reported to have sold 12.69 million units. And the Battlefield story regarding how many copies the Battlefield 1 had sold, I believe that was actually updated in 2025. So earlier this year, they mentioned that it had hit 15. So there is a disparity there between the numbers. So the numbers could have changed in Call of Duty's favor or not. But either way, I just want to give some context for that. But no, I do agree. I think the people behind these games also matters. It's interesting. NoClip has a small little doc/comment like a conversation about the Battlefield 3 campaign, kind of in lieu of all the recent talk about how, oh man, Battlefield 3's campaign was so good, right? And it's so interesting, kind of getting that behind the scene. I highly recommend listening to it. But it really does shape like the behind the scenes look of like how these campaigns are made. They're almost like part of it is reactionary, and part of it is like, oh, I like this stuff, and I think it would be cool to play with this story beat or mechanic or whatnot. And it's also a little bit funny, I think, watching those, especially that kind of conversation, because like stuff that you wouldn't really notice as a player, but like as a creative person, you can you'll watch something that you made and pick it apart a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh man, like that, so amateurish, but like everyone else was like, no, that's pretty good. You did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a unique perspective there, but I think that is a key factor to what Battlefield 6 has kind of going for it, and like having Vince in the mix is well, I hope it does well. It's one of those things where certain times, like, the companies will change hands with like, for lack of better words, they'll poach other, certain big players. And I've seen it where it works out, and I've seen it where it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you will about Callisto Protocol. I don't think that having that team necessarily saved or didn't save that game in its launch, but it does change the vibe of the game, and maybe that's perhaps why like the this felt maybe more like a Call of Duty campaign than or like a Call of Duty trailer, I should say, than
Mm-hmm.
a Battlefield trailer.
Yeah, I think it's also funny that like I didn't even mention it running down the recent Respawn game kind of rundown, but they also worked on the Medal of Honor VR game that came out a couple years ago. I think that was like a
Oh,
little bit of
yeah.
a misstep for them uncharacteristically, but at the same time, it's like it'd be interesting if that was like kind of early, like getting the ball rolling and being like, okay, like grounded military shooter, like the VR perspective. Like, I wonder if that kind of influences anything in the actual construction of like the more cinematic moments of the game or anything like that. Just kind of a weird sidebar that popped into my head on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Now let's talk about what to expect, what maybe they can do to hit the bars, right? We've talked a little bit about like bringing back to what fans have been asking for, which is more of that, you know, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 era of these games, of this specific franchise. Um, Specifically, though, I do want to add on the the recent kind of conversation around Call of Duty skins. Like it's, I know, in my heart of hearts that this game, like Battlefield 6, is going to have a battle pass, right? Like that's just, it's gonna happen. Some sort of like a seasonal content drops and all that stuff. It's to be expected, but I think I've seen so much critique and criticism of Call of Duty games having like, oh, Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, just a bunch of random like fish and like just random shit,
Fish.
that gets thrown in. Yeah, like it's true. There's just fish skins and cat skins
Uh-huh.
and dog skins and
No, for sure.
Beavis and Butthead got added in, and it's just it's weird, especially because like an American Dad got added in too, like American like Stan and Roger got added in, but like they stand out because like in like Fortnite it makes sense because like the whole art style, they're very very good at like adapting like each skin feels like a Fortnite skin,
Hmm.
this looks so out of place. It's like everything is super realistic, and then like these skins are fucking cartoonish and like fucking shining. It's
Yeah,
jarring.
it's it's so weird, and I do not like the skin usage in Call of Duty. Like I feel like if you are a fan of like the more grounded kind of art style that they go for, you can really only play through like season 1. And then like once you hit season
Uh-huh.
2, that's when they start,
But
doing all the crossover stuff. Like,
I agree, but also like with the way that the Call of Duties evolved in recent times, like the games are all rolled in. Like Battlefield 2, or sorry, no, no, jeez, Battlefield's on my mind. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 6 are all like so I can go into Warzone right now and pick like a weapon skin or like a character skin or a weapon from any of those three games and use them in Warzone. Like, it's not like limited to what like, and that's part of the process of like, you buy it in one game and you can keep it rolls over and you can keep using it. Kind of the appeal of why you should buy, spend $10 on that skin.
mhm.
But yeah, so like you don't even get that grace period anymore with like season one being like, oh, like realistic soldiers and then balls to the walls. No, it starts off that way now.
Yeah,
um
to kind of comment on your, the core of that question, like what does Battlefield do, right? I think, oh, it's such a tricky question. I think they're experimenting with it in 2042. Specifically, the things that caught my eye were when they announced that there's going to be Mass Effect skins and like a Mass Effect limited time mode. I feel like EA will probably look inward at stuff that makes sense. So I would expect, Mass Effect stuff. I would expect maybe like a Dead Space crossover I could see happening,
yeah,
where
yeah.
there's limited time mode or whatever that you can get the plasma cutter or something like that. um I would expect those things. The What I would think that they would try to do, or at least what I would do if I had the keys to Battlefield, is something more along the lines of the Call of Duty like Godzilla crossover, where like I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
play
yeah.
that, but like I've seen some
It was
gameplay
super
where
cool
it
though.
was like, Godzilla was on the map, and it's like, it's more so like an event around a crossover versus just an influx of like skins and things. I could see them maybe trying something like that, or like maybe they do like, we were talking about it before, maybe they have a Top Gun Maverick crossover and it is
Sure.
just that like environment and level,
I
like.
mean, Battlefield has had some of that, like some of their Easter eggs have been, wild monster, like Megalodon appears, type of
Mhm.
thing, or calling a I don't know, like Call in a Storm. Like they've had weird crossovers, or not crossovers, but Easter eggs. So I could certainly, it would honestly, I would love if, every game had a Godzilla crossover. I mean, we already got Call
Mhm.
of Duty, we got Dave the Diver. I mean, let's get Battlefield in there, man.
If we have
I agree.
to, if we're thinking about it from EA's perspective, where it's like
The
we
commercial
need,
perspective, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
we need this in our game, right? It's like obviously, like if I had to say, it's just like I just wouldn't add any of that
no.
stuff in there. But we're smarter than that, and we know that they're 100% going to be looking for any opportunity for crossover promotion, multiverse shenanigans.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get a taste of maybe what they're expecting, hopefully, in a week as the multiplayer reveal happens. But at the very least, we'll be able to see the game in action, and we'll be able to decide if the gun is going like this, as the character is running.
Hmm.
Uh, Anything else that you think kind of is big that like Battlefield needs to get, or Battlefield Studios needs to get nailed down before this game launches, probably in just a few months here?
We briefly touched on it, but didn't specifically outright say it. And they've been doing this new kind of approach called Battlefield Labs, where it's like play testers have been playing this game for a while, the multiplayer component. And obviously, stuff has been trickling out here and there whenever they do play tests of leaks and stuff like that. Bad people, you're not supposed to be doing that, but it's going to happen when you open it up to hundreds of thousands of people. Um, and I haven't paid super close attention to the stuff coming out of those, but I think if there's one thing that the multiplayer specifically needs to nail, it needs to be the heavy emphasis on the class system. Because I think that was specifically always like the differentiating factor for Battlefield, right? Like you could,
Yeah.
with your class, go in and do the like, either team play or, kind of solo sort of, adventuring in a multiplayer match, I guess is how you would call it. But I do think that, especially with like 2042 and stuff, a lot of those roles kind of, I don't want to say
Well, I
became.
think Battlefield 2042 didn't necessarily launch with traditional classes, and then they like a year maybe after the game came out, they like significantly reworked the game and then sort of like launched a
Mhm.
2.0 almost.
And because like 2042, from what I played, like it has the classes, but it also has the kind of like the like hero shooter kind of thing, or like the
Mm.
operators, I guess you'll call them, where it's like you pick like a character and that person has like a grapple hook or like a unique piece of equipment and stuff. And I just think like if you're trying to pull it back to that era of like the early 2010s and stuff of Battlefield, then like it really needs to feel defined in the class structure. And I've seen like rumblings online that some of that hero shooter kind of skill stuff might still be in the game, and it's like I just don't think that. Maybe it needs a new spin to get people into it. If it's just like clearly a vehicle for selling soldier action figures and little abilities and stuff, I don't think people are going to buy that. I don't think they're going to really enjoy that. I feel like if you can really strip it down to the core essentials of like the scout sniper, the medic, the engineer, the assault class, and you can really nail that kind of rock paper scissors, we'll say, in a match, then I think they'll be on a pretty good trajectory, at least for having like a core fun gameplay for the multiplayer that people want to continually go back to, that feels different from a Call of Duty, from a Halo, from a Splitgate, whatever you have.
Yeah. And while we're naming games, I do want to throw out there that the big game that people have been talking about since the last Battlefield game, that I think kind of maybe, I don't necessarily think it filled the Battlefield shaped hole in the community, but it certainly kept a few people busy that were maybe really hooked on Battlefield, and that is the finals. That's coming from the developers of Arc Raiders, and it's, look, I played a good bit of the finals. I didn't here's the thing. I didn't personally like the main core mode the finals had, which is like this bank robbery, like steal coins and get it to your bank. It's this whole thing. We don't need to explain that. But it had really good destruction. Like it really playing that game reminded me of playing Battlefield. And so I think that like that is the bar in terms of like destruction that this game has to live up to. And it's not like it's weird because like I say that's the bar, but like Battlefield has done that in the past. It's just that they haven't necessarily had the playgrounds properly construct. The maps haven't been like really like taking advantage of that, which is
Hmm.
what I'm hoping for, with Battlefield 6. Again, we'll see how it shapes out overall. Nick, any kind of final thoughts on Battlefield 6?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think more
Yeah.
so than 2042. I definitely kind of was swept up in the community facing marketing of 2042, but ultimately, like once the game came out and you kind of see all the technical glitches and stuff like that, I think it kind of pushed me away at that point. Tonally, I this is very interesting to me. Like I said, I think having Vince Zampella at the helm is kind of a thing that'll make me turn, because I'm just a big fan of most of the games that he's put out. So I think that's a reason to be excited, specifically for a return to form Battlefield, because you know that he does his research when it comes to tackling a project like this. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the multiplayer shakes out. And I think more so than anything, I am excited that we're getting like a more traditional campaign again. I liked the war stories in 1 and 5 specifically, but I do think there is going to be something nice about having like an actual story that you can kind of sink your teeth into. It feels like it's been missing for a while, even though it technically hasn't.
Yeah. No, I'm also looking forward to the game. Just at a base level of, I've look, I play a lot of Call of Duty, especially like in the last, I guess, a few months, as Warzone's kind of sunk its teeth into me. But I'm always looking for a new first-person shooter to switch it up, because even though it's still a first-person shooter, it changes like the way that the game is designed and plays really significantly changes how it feels. Like some people I feel like are shocked that like how do you just go from these first-person shooters are all the same? They're vastly different in kind of just look, gameplay, everything like that. And so I am looking forward to it. I do, like I said, I did play 2042. I jumped in right away. You can go back and read my review from November 2021 of Battlefield 2042 and see what I think of it. But I think that game did burn me a little bit in terms of I just didn't feel very satisfied with that experience. And I don't think that it's necessarily look, the whole discussion, we've had a lot of talk about Call of Duty, and I don't think it's a bad thing to borrow from Call of Duty. In fact, you know what, I'll go ahead, I'll say it, Nick. All right. There's a lot of talk about how Battlefield 3's campaign is so good. Battlefield 3's campaign, very similar to Black Ops 1. It's like this dude's getting fucking, tortured so he could tell the stories about what's going on. And then there's also a plot that continues forward. Like it's I'm not saying it's one for one, right? But
Hmm.
there's still like it's clearly like a learned lesson of like, oh, let's look at what's happening here. It's interesting about how do we iterate on that? How do we make this our own thing? And so I hope that they really make this their own thing. There's been so much. I feel bad for these developers because, look, you can come out and say on the PR side, like, we are so excited. Like, like I'm guaranteed that next week there's probably someone going to be saying, like, it's our honor to like build out the future of Battlefield or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Sure. But like, there's so much pressure to deliver this game. There are so many voices that are speaking, about like what's this, what's that, that it's got to be just just an immense expectation that they have to live up to, and maybe at some point some might say an unrealistic one, because the idea is that this game has to save the franchise and like for fans, it has to save the franchise. For EA, it has to make a bajillion dollars. And the likelihood of it crumbling under that expectations are high because that's just the reality of it. But
Hmm.
that being said, I think there's like the first taste we've gotten is enough to get people into it, and they really need to sell it home and hope that initial launch window isn't fumbled again, because just like in 2016, almost a decade ago, the ball's in Battlefield's court, and they got to make sure that even if there's a back and forth, that they really sink it, and and they keep that lead while they have it.
Hmm.
So with that said, any other thing, Nick,
I have
about Battlefield 6?
I have one spicy question to end it on.
Oh, okay, all right.
We've seen a heavily cinematic reveal trailer for Battlefield 6. We've seen a very heavily cinematic reveal trailer for Black Ops 7. Which one is your hype meter higher on?
Nick, out of 10, I'd say Battlefield 6 is at a 6, and Black Ops 7 is at a 7. They
Nice.
are in that range because look, it would be foolish of me to say if I was like, oh, that Battlefield trailer got me a 10. I'm at a 10. Like it would just be it would be pure fan service, and it's me trying to get my like a thumbnail to be like, oh, like the Battlefield 6, whatever. And so I still have to be convinced in to get me prepared for it, right? And
Hmm.
the memes going around as we speak, I'm sure that's like it's the no Russian like foot clip, but it's no pre-orders, right? Like it's like don't pre-order. Like I'm not pre-ordering. You got to be, there's got to be more that we see about this before. And first of all, pre-orders in general, a rough topic, but just before you commit to anything, even if it's just yourself that you're going to get it. I think Black Ops 7 has the leg up because one, that reveal trailer was genuine. Like pretty fucking well put together, but the surprise of it was like really exciting. Like if this showed up during a conference, right, like an Xbox game showcase, I'd have been like, oh shit, okay, maybe it is a 7 as well.
Hmm.
But we knew this was happening. Like this was Battlefield 6's reveal trailer dropping tonight. Like that was I think there's a certain expectation there. So I think that gives Black Ops 7 a little bit of an edge up, and also the fact that it's Black Ops 7 is supposedly building on this legacy and the storyline, whereas 6 is just like, hey, let's
Hmm.
see who's fucking with America now.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more excited. I'm a bit of the opposite. I'm a little bit more excited for Battlefield than I am for Black Ops 7. Um, Specifically, like, there's one thing that I think Black Ops 7 could do that would get me very interested, and they kind of hint at it in the trailer, but like I want them to really go out there for the campaign. Like, they have like this weird like Inception imagery and stuff in the Black Ops 7 trailer, and it's like if it's like
Which is reminiscent of like Battlefield, or not. Fuck, jeez, the lines are blurring. No, of like Black Ops 3, I believe, had like those similar kind of
mhm.
weird, trippy visuals.
So like if they really go there and it feels like a dramatically kind of different campaign than something that they've done before, then that'll get me very interested. If it's like a mission of that and like it's Advanced Warfare 2 and it's just like kind of drone robot warfare tech, like that I'm going to find a little bit underwhelming even compared to Battlefield 6 being just like a, contemporary setting. So I think 6 has a little bit of a leg up on it right now for me personally, but again, we're just basing that off of 2 cinematic trailers and no gameplay. So,
Yeah, but obviously in the coming weeks we're going to find out more about these games. Obviously, specifically, I should say, Black Ops. Jesus Christ, dude, these games. It's too late. My brain can't separate them. So Battlefield 6 next week we'll see more details about the multiplayer for that. For Black Ops 7, we'll get details on that next month at Gamescom. Which, if you didn't know, Respawn Station will be there, and we will be covering some games. Very excited about that. If you have specific games that you want us to maybe take a peek at, take a gander at, then let us know. Obviously, and we'll do our best to cover that in August in Germany. I've never been to Germany. Very exciting. Speaking of very exciting, though, you should check out respawnstation.com. We had some very exciting changes over there. That really reshaped the website, gives you a real good context for how long some of these articles are. It's a Nick and I spent a good 30 minutes yesterday just riffing about that. So be sure to check that out. And then also stay tuned to the podcast. Obviously, hit the subscribe button because we got some exciting episodes ahead. Not just between Nick and I, discuss our banter, but we might have a guest or two coming in the near future. So stay tuned for that. But until then, as always, people, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. And until next time, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.